When you think of punk rock, you probably think of leather jackets, spiked hair, moshing, lots of moshing. But punk has and always will be a reflection of the counterculture of the time, from then to now. So let's take a look at how punk has evolved. And let's start here. I don't know, what do you want from me? The British invasion of the mid to late 60s was a period of time where British musicians brought new and influential sounds to America.
Just because we get around.
The Who are especially important in the creation of this new, heavier sound, which in turn would lead to Iggy Pop and the Stooges were pioneers in creating the punk sound that we know today, with loud, distorted guitars, messy drums, and blaring feedback. The Stooges are clearly responsible for much of the current punk sound. But while the Stooges created the sounds, another band created the subject matter. The Velvet Underground does not sound like your average punk rock band, but lead singer Lou Reed was never afraid to share his political opinions. Here is a lost recording from Blank on Blank with Lou Reed on the initial backlash of the first Velvet Underground album.
What are your recollections of that Velvet Underground time? You guys were on a avant-garde, cutting-edge, new stuff. When this record came out, all of a sudden there's this kind of recognition.
Well, there wasn't any recognition. I mean, what there was a lot of bad press. I got a little puzzled at how savage the reaction against us was when we got it, especially when we performed live and left New York.
As I said, Lou Reed was very vocal about his political beliefs, and Lou Reed loved communism.
And if you can't be a communist and make money, then you have to be a rock and roll singer.
David Bowie is not punk. However, the message that he and many other female punk musicians were spreading were all heavily influenced by social upheaval of the time, such as the Stonewall riots.
Aye, oh, let's go! Aye, oh, let's go! Aye, oh, let's go!
The Ramones jumped into the punk scene in the late 70s and immediately cemented themselves as punk legends. They are the founders of the punk sound. If we head back over to London, we can find The Clash and the Sex Pistols making waves in the punk scene.
Police and thieves in the street, calling to the faraway towns. Right now.
This is the punk song. These two simple lines establish the true essence of punk. No government, no systems, just anarchy. The 80s brought along a new golden age of punk, with punk bands popping up day by day, all taking influence from the punk bands before them, but also innovating and experimenting with their own sounds as well. Bands like Crass, X, and Bad Brains all embrace hardcore sounds, while bands like Descendants embrace more poppy sounds. But it's during this time where punk starts to really branch out, creating all sorts of new genres and scenes all across the world. But for my own sanity, I'm really gonna be sticking to mainly US-based bands. Otherwise, we'd be here all day. And because your average punk genre chart looks like this convoluted mess, I'm just gonna quickly name a couple of the main ones. There's hardcore, post-punk, street punk, anarcho-punk, crust punk, pop punk, emo, noise rock, folk punk, and ska punk. But despite all these genres and all these bands, there's still the main three of the 80s.
Walk the streets at night. We go where we go down.
Black Flag represented pure youthful anger that young punks could relate to very easily. This was music to mosh to. Meanwhile, the Misfits were incorporating more horror and Baroque elements to their music. I mean, just look at them. However, most importantly are the Dead Kennedys, who used their music as a medium to fight and mock Reagan-era America. And they weren't afraid one bit to show their far left-leaning politics. Their music acted as a call to arms for anyone listening to get up and fight the man, whether that meant the police force in songs like Police Truck, or the US's overspending on the military in a song like Bleed For Me. And they often mock consumerist and capitalist societies in songs like Kill the Poor and Soup is Good Food. Before I move on, I do want to note that during this time, people with further right-leaning views also classified themselves as punk.
Well, that was complete opposite of Nazi fascism.
And we hate these people.
So we kicked the shit out of these kids every chance we could.
As the 90s rolled in, the Cold War ended, internet exists now, and trends are changing. And while some bands like Fugazi, Bad Religion, and Sonic Youth still embrace classic punk sounds and put out banger after banger after banger, and Riot Grrrl is created up in Washington with bands like Bikini Kill, L7, and Bratmobile, who also just pump out banger after banger after banger, we get pop punk is loud, angry, whiny, and immature, but most importantly, it's pop. The early 90s showed us punk really shaping pop culture, with a few tweaks made. There's an obvious divide between classic punk sounds and pop punk sounds. Oh, and did I mention it's immature? But there was still that anger, that call to action that punk really embodied. This is seen specifically in Green Day's American Idiot. This is an album about a lost generation in fear of a nuclear war. Pop punk truly set a new standard for what alternative music and pop culture could be. But as the 2000s rolled through, pop punk faded away. And in its place, a new brand of pop-influenced hardcore emerged. Bands like A Day to Remember, Rise Against, and Against Me were all part of this wave. As we move closer to present day, we see R&B and hip-hop usurping rock's throne from the music industry, leaving punk, well... Even though today there are countless numbers of punk revival bands that take influence from the punk music that they listen to, punk today has yet to hit that level of cultural significance that it did in its heyday. But as long as there's someone to be mad at, punk will never die.